Welcome, everyone. Today, we are stepping into the shoes of a Microsoft Entra administrator. We will be exploring the foundational pillars of Entra ID, configuring your tenant properties, and managing user, group, and device settings to strike the perfect balance between user productivity and organizational security. Let's get started. Let's begin by defining what a tenant actually is. In the cloud-enabled workplace, a tenant is a dedicated and trusted instance of Microsoft Entra ID that contains all of your organization's resources, including registered apps and your directory of users. Think of it as your secure, private office building in the cloud. It acts as the ultimate security boundary. Data belonging to your tenant cannot be accessed by neighboring tenants. Today, we're going to look at the four major control planes you will use to manage this environment: tenant properties, user settings, group settings, and device settings. Mastering these four areas is the absolute foundation of your journey into cloud identity. Looking at this diagram, you can see the Microsoft Entra tenant sitting at the very center of our architecture. From this central hub, our management tasks branch out into four distinct areas. First, tenant properties, where we define global identifiers. Next, user settings, controlling individual capabilities. Then, group settings, which govern collaboration and bulk access. And finally, device settings, which secure the physical endpoints connecting to our tenant. We will explore each of these nodes step by step. Our first stop is configuring tenant properties. This is where you establish your organization's global identity. You'll manage the basics here, like your tenant name and your primary domain, which users see during the sign-in experience. But why is this specific page so critical? Because this is where you define your technical contact and your global privacy contact. The global privacy contact is the exact person Microsoft will reach out to if there is a data breach related to Entra services. If you leave this blank, those alerts default to your global administrators. To set these up, you simply navigate to the Properties blade under the Overview section of the Entra Admin Center and fill in the required fields. This flow illustrates the simple path to update your tenant's core identity. Starting from the Entra Admin Center, you navigate to the Overview pane and select Properties. From there, you branch out to configure the tenant name, the technical contact for standard IT support communications, and the global privacy contact for critical security and compliance alerts. Keeping these three nodes updated is your first administrative duty. Now we move to user settings. This isn't about resetting passwords. This is about setting tenant-wide boundaries on what standard users are permitted to do. By default, any user can register custom applications or even create new, unmanaged Entra tenants. Why is that a problem? It leads to shadow IT and massive security blind spots. We secure this by going into user settings and toggling users can register applications to no. Furthermore, you can restrict access to the Entra administration portal entirely. This prevents non-administrators from browsing the directory and misconfiguring resources that they might own. It's a critical step in reducing your attack surface. This diagram contrasts the default state with a secured state. When a standard user attempts an action, they hit our configured gates. If they try to register an app, the default yes leads to shadow IT risks, whereas our secured no routes them to a formal admin approval process. Similarly, if they try to access the admin portal, our secured no blocks them, preventing unnecessary directory browsing and keeping them focused on their actual work applications. Next, let's talk about group settings. Groups are how we assign access at scale. Microsoft Entra provides self-service group management, which empowers users to create and manage their own Microsoft 365 or security groups. It's great for productivity, but why must we govern it? Because without guardrails, you will suffer from massive group sprawl and confusing, or even profane, group names. How do we fix this? First, we configure a group naming policy. This automatically applies standard prefixes, like GRP, and blocks specific words, like CEO or HR, from being used by standard users. Second, we set an expiration policy. Groups that show no user activity across M365 services will automatically expire and be deleted after a set time, keeping your directory incredibly clean. Let's follow the life cycle of a group in the state diagram. It starts when a user requests a new group. The request immediately hits the naming policy check. If it contains a blocked word, it's rejected. If approved, the group is created and enters the expiration monitor state. Here, Entra ID watches for user activity. If there is no activity for, say, 180 days, the group transitions to the deleted state. If activity is detected, it automatically transitions back to renewed, requiring zero IT intervention. Our fourth pillar is device settings. This dictates how physical endpoints integrate with Entra. The basics involve two main methods: Entra registration for personal, bring your own devices, and Entra join for corporate-owned devices. Why must we lock this down? Because device identities are a prerequisite for device-based conditional access policies. They are your perimeter. To secure this, you must navigate to device settings and mandate that users perform multi-factor authentication to register or join any device. We also recommend setting a strict maximum number of devices per user to prevent quota abuse. Finally, for Entra-joined devices, you can explicitly define which IT staff get local administrator rights on those machines, keeping local privileges tightly controlled. This flowchart traces the device onboarding path. A new device attempts to connect. Our setting intercepts it and asks, is MFA required? Yes, so the user completes an MFA prompt. Next, the system performs a quota check to ensure the user hasn't exceeded their allowed device limit. If they are under the limit, the device successfully registers or joins. Finally, for corporate joined devices, predefined IT staff are automatically injected with local admin rights, completing a secure, automated setup. Let's deep dive into a powerful feature within group settings: dynamic membership groups. Instead of manually adding users to groups, you create rules based on user or device attributes. For example, a rule might state if department equals sales. Why is this revolutionary? Because it completely eliminates manual IT ticket processing for access. When HR updates a user's department in the directory, the Entra evaluation engine automatically detects the change, processes all dynamic rules, and instantly adds or removes the user from the relevant groups. If those groups have software licenses tied to them, the licenses are automatically granted or revoked. Just remember, utilizing dynamic groups requires an Entra ID Premium P1 or P2 license. Here is the dynamic evaluation engine in action. It starts at the top when HR updates a user's attribute, say, changing their department to sales. The Entra evaluation engine immediately wakes up and asks, does this match our dynamic rules? If yes, the user is auto-added to the sales group, which flows down to auto-assigning their app licenses. If they are moved out of sales, the engine auto-removes them and revokes the licenses. It's a zero-touch lifecycle. For our second deep dive, we must look at how we administer these settings securely, applying the principle of least privilege. Applying the principle of least privilege helps enhance security by ensuring users are granted access only to resources relevant to their roles. It is incredibly dangerous to give everyone global administrator rights to manage tenant properties and settings. Microsoft strongly recommends limiting global administrators to fewer than 5 people. Why? Because a compromised global admin can destroy or steal everything in your tenant. Instead, we delegate. Need someone to manage user app registrations? Assign them the application administrator role. Need someone to manage group expiration policies? Give them the group's administrator role. Tailoring roles to specific settings drastically reduces your blast radius. This visual breaks down how we apply least privilege to our Entra settings. At the top, the principle of least privilege splits our administrative strategy. On one side, we strictly limit global admins to 5 or fewer users. On the other side, we rely heavily on delegated roles. Notice how specific tasks align with specific roles. The group's admin handles expiration, the application admin handles app registrations, and the cloud device admin handles device settings. We compartmentalize the power. Let's bring this all together with a real-world use case that is incredibly common: securely onboarding a wave of remote contractors. We need them productive immediately, but safely contained. First, using user settings, we ensure restrict access to Microsoft Entra administration portal is set to yes, preventing these contractors from browsing our corporate directory. Next, we look at device settings. We allow Entra registration for BYOD, but we strictly require MFA to register that device, ensuring the endpoint is verified. Finally, we utilize group settings. We create a dynamic group with the rule syntax targeting users where user type equals guest. As soon as their device registers, they are dynamically grouped, instantly receiving their required apps. We've used all our settings to create a seamless, secure onboarding pipeline. In this final sequence diagram, we watch the contractor's journey. The contractor first interacts with device settings to register their laptop and is immediately hit with an MFA enforcement challenge. Once authenticated, if they try to snoop around, user settings intercepts and blocks their access to the admin portal. Meanwhile, the system recognizes their user type as guest, which triggers our group settings. The dynamic group automatically provisions their applications. security and productivity, perfectly balanced.